Hi, everybody. Welcome to the CFO show. I'm your Chief Fun Officer, Rebecca Binnendijk, and I am here with the lovely Bri Larson, who is currently in Kelowna, coming to us with a full foot of snow outside of her window, and she's very thrilled about that. Bri is a certified coach and consultant focusing on relationships, so we're going to talk about relationships today. She is also the founder and CEO of her own company, Elevate, which is built on a bedrock of love and passion for achieving what seems impossible. She is an unstoppable force, and I can't wait to get to know her a little bit more here and let her tell you all about her company. Let's start there, Bri. If you just want to tell the audience a little bit about Elevate and what it is that you do.
Yeah, for sure. So Elevate was born from, it was more so a passion project for me. I discovered that my purpose in this world is to better other people. I need other people in my life in order for me to feel whole and sane. And by bettering other people, it just makes the world a better place. I mean, if that's not the core purpose of what I do, then in my own mind, I'm doing something for selfish reasons. If I'm only doing it for money, then that's selfish. If I'm not looking for a whole and selfless outcome, then it's not genuine. So my company, Elevate, is actually my life work. So I focus on relationships. My background is in cognitive behavioral psychology, and I chose to focus on personalities and relationships because that's what interests me. So I have a vast knowledge base on both of those topics and how they fit together, which is a beautiful thing.
Okay, I'm curious, what, if you could start us there, if you can share a story with us about the largest transformation that you ever saw when you were working with a couple or a particular individual, something that really stands out in your mind that, you know, actually said to you, this is why I do what I do. Exactly this reason, and I want to do more of that in the world. Tell me that story.
Definitely. So the individual that first came to mind, I don't technically have his permission to share this, so I'm going to leave his name out of it, but I'll kind of walk you through what had happened. So it's a male. He is split from his wife, and they have one child together. The wife is pretty particular with how interactions between him and his son transpire. And so it's very difficult for him. He's a very sensitive and emotional person, which as a male in society is frowned upon. However, as a human being is completely natural. So we walked through a process of getting him to acknowledge what his feelings were, acknowledge that they come out in a way for him that is unacceptable to society, but completely natural to the way that he processes. So if he was able to find an effective outlet for the way that his anger and his frustration and whatnot comes out, that it wouldn't cause additional problems over and above his circumstances. So we went through a process where he was just able to, in a safe place, he was able to expel a lot of that anger, and he was able to say a lot of what was on his mind without actually saying it to his ex-wife, which would have caused major issues, clearly. And in this circumstance, he took it a lot farther than what I was even looking for from him, to the point where he was screaming into a pillow and letting out so much anger that when he was done, obviously he was exhausted, but the weeks that followed, he was a totally changed person. He honestly just needed to purge a lot of baggage from his past above and beyond the relationship that was happening with his son and with his ex-wife. And so sometimes just being able to purge deep rooted emotions like that with someone who cares and someone who knows how to help you can be totally beneficial. And to my knowledge, I don't keep in touch with clients after the fact, but to my knowledge, he is now dating someone, and it's going fairly well as far as I know. But yeah, that one was definitely the most powerful movement that I've ever experienced with my clients.
That's amazing. And actually, this is the second conversation this week that I've had about men in society, what we say they can and cannot do, how they can express, what's acceptable by your boss, exactly. When you're a man in a workplace and you're trying to do these things. Well, my question to you then would be, Bri, in that gentleman's life, if he's able to, get rid of all of this anger and frustration, which I love, and often men do need a safe space where they can actually let it out, and not be judged by it. How do you think that would affect a man's life in the workplace? So that's where I feel that I see that as being fun, a fun thing to heal that, to get rid of that, to let that go. But what do you think the difference is between a man who's holding on to that, who's repressed all those feelings and emotions from, who knows, childhood to divorce and all this anger, that because we tell men, you can't be outraged because that's not acceptable. And we stifle that inside, and then it becomes repressed. So between that man and the man like your client, who has now been able to deal with that in a safe place and move on, how do you think that he's going to function in the workplace differently?
So this is the cool part, is that again, like I said, he was an emotional and sensitive male that, again, society tends to frown upon and find inappropriate for some reason. But there are a multitude of other different personality types that the same situation, the same past and upbringing, the same baggage with a different personality type will not come out the same. Because this man had those circumstances, those environmental factors, but also was the personality type to be more sensitive and emotional to begin with, it weighs heavier on him. So someone like that, when they have a safe chance to expel that in a way that isn't detrimental to them or others, it honestly makes them so much lighter, because they no longer feel like they're carrying this burden of shame and guilt and whatever else is weighing on them in that moment. So, I mean, to your point, going into your work environment, there will be a noticeable difference, a lighter, a pep in their step, let's say, in their work environment. So, I mean, I'm an advocate of coaching and therapy and counseling and whatnot, because I don't see it as something where you're going to come in and I'm going to judge you on all of your wrongdoings and your missteps and your poor choices or whatnot. No one's perfect. And the whole point of doing this is to teach people that their flaws will not hold them back. You are holding yourself back because you're judging yourself on your behavior and the input from others based on that behavior. But if we just let ourselves be human and we learn to move forward in a way that's not detrimental to ourselves or others, it's just a beautiful thing. I see therapy and coaching in this regard as something that honestly can change the world. It's something that the world needs. We need to accept that personal development and personal growth is necessary. And to your point again, it makes you happier. You accept yourself. You accept that there's some things that are not within your control and you just need to let go of, and you learn ways to do that. And that is so freeing.
Yeah. And I think it's, you know what, to be perfectly honest, I think that is easier for women. I think in our society, we have kind of isolated the idea of men being able to deal with their emotions, be who they are, be non-judged. It's a little easier for women to enter that space. And so that's why I love that you're working with men and you're working with relationships, and the acknowledgement that when we have healthier relationships with our partner, with our children, with our parents, with ourselves, we are actually, exactly like you said, we have that pep in our step when we walk into work.
Yeah.
And how different a male CEO with a pep in their step who doesn't feel like they're on the defense all the time, and like they have to justify themselves all the time, how much more effective they will be in their corporation, in their business, and how much more success they're going to have in that space.
Oh, exactly. I mean, think to yourself of times when you were upset about something, or you had something very large happening in your life, and you're grumpy. You're walking around preoccupied in your own mind of what you're dealing with, and sometimes it can be all consuming, and you literally don't have cognitive space left to deal with things that others need from you, be it your wife or your kids or coworkers or your boss or your employees. That if that grumpiness, that displacement of cognitive abilities was to be unpacked, and you understood how it got there, why it got there, what to do about it, how to remove it, and why it's good for you to remove it, you would just have so much more brain power available for the important things in your life, like your wife, like your kids, like your coworkers, etc. So, I mean, I honestly think that arguing the opposite is doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, for all of the gentlemen who may watch this, they may own a company, they may be in a startup, or they may have a boss that they can clearly see is dealing with bigger issues. What would you say as a coach and a counselor, what would you say a tangible step would be? Like, say they don't want to pick up the phone and, book themselves into therapy and counseling right away. What is something we can encourage these men to do? Maybe something easier on a more regular basis to help them find that, I feel like it's a center, to find their center, even when they're feeling angry, even when they're feeling frustrated, they want to punch a wall. Like, how many guys do we know? They do want to punch a wall. They break their hand doing something. Or the gentle ones who would never do that, but they also still hold that anger inside. What is something that you would say that they could do when they're feeling that way?
Honestly, if you're not wanting to take the step to reach out to a professional who knows what they're doing, which oftentimes is the case, for a number of reasons, whether you can't afford it or you don't feel like you're quite damaged enough to need a therapist or whatnot, or whatever your reason may be, it's 2020. Hop on Google, hop on YouTube. There is a multitude of free content out there solely meant to better other people. There's apps out there that can give you daily reminders of things to be grateful for. There's things that can, there's such a broad base of what can be the issues for people who are projecting it onto their employees or onto their family or whatnot, that you really just need to find what it is within you that is causing you this distress, and whether it's the underlying issue or the behavior that is a symptom. So say you had something happen when you were younger, and now you're displaying behaviors today in your interpersonal relationships that it's causing you issues. The behavior is a symptom of the underlying issue. So if you can at least acknowledge that, and you can YouTube, videos that deal with whatever symptom or behavior you're displaying, but if you can acknowledge that connection, that puts you farther than if you did nothing about it at all.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, like, even in the moment, to breathe through it. I always say, breathe through it. Take a deep breath.
100%.
100%. If you're in the moment, take a deep breath. And I know it's easier said than done, but really think about, how important is this right now? And how, and what am I in control of? Because I can't control what my CEO just said in that stupid business meeting that we just had that was pointless and dumb. And I can't believe he fired Anne. She was the best one. You can't control what he's done, but you can control how you respond and react to it, and how it affects you by being aware of what's going on in your mind.
Exactly.
Right.
So
And
a tip for that type of scenario, and it's very hard to do if you're not, if you don't have the tools to do it. But if you're able to take a step back, like you said, is this a mountain or a molehill? Why is it important for me to win this fight? Is this something that 5 years from now, I'm going to look back on and think, yeah, I'm so glad that I put my foot down and won that fight. That was totally worth it.
Right.
That made all the difference.
Yeah.
Or are you just playing the I'm right game? Are you a person who needs to be right? Yeah. And if you are, why is it that you need that type of validation? Are you someone who plays I'm right in all of your life? Do you do it at work? Do you do it with your friends? Do you do it with your family? Because if that's the case, even if you are right, what is that costing you? It's costing you love and attention and respect from others who feel like you're just a know-it-all, or you're stubborn. So if you want more love and attention and friendship in your life, look at your motives. Playing the I'm right game in certain circumstances can be tactical, and certain circumstances is necessary. But in almost all of them, outside of those, it's not. It just costs you what you actually want.
Yeah. Yeah. And to speak to that, to what you actually want, obviously we all, have an idea of how things are going to turn out. We actually all want it to go a certain way. And this is called an expectation. And generally we put an expectation out into the world. I'm wondering what you would say, because I work with companies and businesses and people with interrelationships all the time, and you're a relationship expert in the workplace. Why do you think it's so difficult? I mean, I know now it's difficult for people to connect because we're all on Zoom constantly and not able to connect in person. But even before last March, what makes it so difficult for people who are different to connect, to create relationships within the workplace? Because I think that's a major problem. There's a disconnect because people aren't seeing each other. So just from a general relationship perspective, tell me why you think it's so difficult in the workplace and what we can do to possibly remedy that.
So a whole host of things, first of all. But there's a saying that expectations are premeditated disappointments. So your expectations of the way something is supposed to go, think of it as in a I'd say like a teenage girl's type brain. She's going to imagine that her life is going to go a certain way. You're going to follow whatever the societal norms are going to be. You finish high school, you go to university, you meet the man of your dreams at university, and you get a good paying job. You guys get married, then you have babies. It follows this flow of expectations. Again, it's 2020. Wipe expectations altogether. There is no set rule. There's nothing written anywhere that says that you're supposed to do things a certain way. The white picket fence idea of your future and of what you're expecting to happen, most people will tell you just does not happen. It does not happen. Life happens on its own terms, not yours. In a workplace scenario, it's the same sort of thing, is that you're going into wherever it is that you work, and you have an idea or expectations of the way that's supposed to flow and how those interactions take place. Say you have a boss that's very overbearing and everyone in your company is somewhat terrified to approach this person. They have high expectations. They have high drama reactions. You go into that every day expecting to get the same thing from that person. You go in there expecting to feel belittled, feel underappreciated, and to feel not worthy of the job that you're doing. Excuse my language, but that's a shitty way to live 8 hours, 5 days a week. That's a lot of your life to feel that way. So I deal with a lot of workplace scenarios where employers come to me with employee to employee issues or employer to employee issues. And it's honestly up to the employer to find a way to create a cohesive environment for their employees. You are creating the culture as the CEO or as the president or whatever it is that your role is as top of company. You are setting the tone. So if you are coming in there and you're belittling your employees, or you're making them feel less than, or you're just not giving them time of day, you're not making them feel special or like human beings who are appreciated, you're not going to get the highest productivity out of them in the first place to start with. But as human beings, how are you okay with treating other people like that? Who are you to tell someone that you have really high expectations of them, yet your personal demeanor with them isn't matching what you're expecting from them? You're expecting no lip. You're expecting them to just sit and ask for directions. You're expecting them, essentially you're training your employees to be doormats. Is that really what you want?
Yeah. I think most of the time it's not so overt. I feel like I feel like a lot of the CEOs that might even be watching this would be like, I'm not like that. I'm not like that. Am I? I'm not like that.
Right.
And it's so unintentional.
Yeah.
You know, to be dismissive of a certain employee, or to like miss a meeting because, oh, you didn't know you were onboarding that person that day because you're so busy. Mm-hmm. It wasn't intentional. So if it's not intentional, they don't see it as a problem.
Right.
I feel like a lot of the little problems that get so deeply seated in the employees that they get pissed about are things they would never bring up to their boss, because who gives a shit if there's parking? I shouldn't care about that, but they do care about it.
Yeah.
Right. But the CEO is like kind of unaware because he doesn't actually have a relationship with the employee. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know that, you know, so-and-so's wife is 5 months pregnant. He doesn't know that when he sees this 1 out of 300 people in the hallway. He has no idea. So I think that sometimes it's very overt, like you're talking about, and there's definitely that old school type of thinking, but I do think it's starting to change in a very positive way. I still think, even though it's changing, I still think there's a power thing. I want to say, no, it's not just with men. It's with women too.
Oh, it is.
There's a power struggle. It's like, well, I got here and I earned the degree and I've got the piece of paper and I deserve to be here. And you don't have as not many skills or whatever it is. But they don't think it in like the forefront of their brain. They think it's somewhere behind. And it affects all the relationships, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
I do think that there is a culture shift happening, luckily, where people are caring more about other people, and we're not just pawns to accomplish a job or a task and make someone money. But again, back to your parking example, at the end of the day, I do acknowledge that with CEOs and whatnot, there is a certain balance of, well, this is a business and I have to make strategic business decisions. Is parking something that I really can afford to make a difference on for my employees? Is that the most strategic way of me spending whatever small or large amount of cash flow that they have? And is that something that's going to give me the best ROI in terms of managing this relationship with my employees? There could be a whole host of issues. And if parking is over here, but there's other larger issues, CEOs tend to focus on these instead of something that the employees actually kind of want. But, you know?
Yeah, it's true. And I think it needs to be a balance, and maybe all those issues. That's where I come in. That's where I go in and work with businesses, so the CEO doesn't have to worry about the parking issues. You know, they give that all to an outsider who can see their business running in with completely new eyes.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to shift. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, back to the very beginning of this conversation, one of the other major issues that COVID actually provided us a solve to, or somewhat of a solve to, is that in a lot of companies, there are a multitude of personality types. And if you're working in a brick and mortar building, you're forcing all of them together. That can create conflict very quickly. And one of my main areas of expertise is teaching people what those personality types are, how they meld together in a way that works cohesively, but also how they have conflict together and how to manage that. So in places like a work environment where, say, you have 50 to 100 different personality types of people, and they all have to sit in their own departments and work with people that may not be the same personality type as them, they don't feel understood. They don't understand their superior. They don't feel like they have a clear path of, is this going to be my life until I retire from this place? Or am I really looking forward to spending the next 20 years working in this cubicle with Janice, who is hyper attentive to tasks, and I'm over here just wanting to do my marketing?
They're not cohesive, right? And
exactly.
I feel the same way about education. As a former teacher, I feel like we have this, ancient, archaic way of educating people that it's just designed for one type of person, and no wonder so many people, and I saw it, so many boys got lost in the hustle of the school of like writing down all the notes and memorizing all this stuff. They're not designed for that. And you know what? A lot of girls aren't either. So I feel like some of the workplaces are similar to school, and it needs to change. And thankfully, through people like you who are doing the coaching and helping those personalities to understand each other more, I think that's the key. How do we understand them? Not change them, not judge them, not isolate them, not tell them they're wrong. How do we work together is the key.
Exactly.
Just one question. I know this might be a big one, but I wanted to ask you this since you're the relationship expert. During the last 8 months, divorce rates, domestic abuse reports have skyrocketed. Have you been seeing an increase in people seeking support around, being together? Again, talking about personalities, you're not used to seeing your husband or wife 24/7. You're not used to having your kids around all the time. What have you been doing through Evolve, through your own company, to help support those people? Because in my work, those people are still coming to work, even if it's on Zoom, and it is still affecting them.
Right.
Our relationships affect all areas of our lives. So tell me what you've been doing to support your community in that way.
So there has been an unfortunate increase in people looking for my types of services. And a lot of it has to do, specifically what comes my way, a lot of it has to do with narcissism. I'm going to use just a classic example just for this purpose. However, I want all the viewers to know that this is not, it's not pigeonholed to just this example. It's just a well-known example. Say there's a narcissistic husband and a wife who is the victim of that through circumstances of marriage and kids that they have to stay together. Before COVID, that wife was able to get out of the house and go to her job, if she had one, and get 8 hours of reprieve from her narcissistic husband. But since COVID hit, if she's able to work remotely, or she is now stuck in the house with no job and nothing else to distract her, and her husband is also stuck in the house, and say you add kids to that, I mean, that's a whole level of stress that no one was prepared for or built to deal with on their own. Narcissism is very difficult, and it's different for everybody. It depends on the two people who are involved in it, how much the narcissist is putting out, and how much the counterpart is able to take and understand and willing to put up with, and a whole host of reasons. But those people who are stuck in abusive type of relationships over COVID are having exceptionally difficult times right now. And there are people out there who can support you. There's groups on Facebook. There's things on TikTok. There's things on Snapchat. There's things on YouTube. Familiarize yourself with what you can do, even in COVID circumstances, to be able to cope, or to be able to get yourself to the point where you feel like you have some control in your life. One of those methods is called the Gray Rock method. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. So the Gray Rock method, I'll just go into it a little bit, is meant for victims of narcissists. in whatever format that comes in, whether it's a little bit harder if it's your boss, but it's mostly effective in marriages or couples, where basically think of a gray rock. It's just there. It's not really noticeable. It's not something you really pay attention to. It's not something you really want to devote your attention or energy towards. You as the victim become the gray rock. So you make yourself look less attractive. You don't put a lot of effort into the way you look. You make yourself look not like a target to narcissists. And your answers are just plain generic, unassuming. They don't require follow-up. They don't require them to dig any deeper. It's just flat answers. So if they ask you, if they're gaslighting and they're trying to get a rise out of you, you just say something along the lines of like, yeah, that's a possibility. Or yeah, sorry. Like you literally call as little attention to yourself as possible. And usually the narcissists don't pick up on it. Usually, most of the time they don't. But if they do, I mean, you're answering them. You're not, oh, my lights are flickering. You're answering them. You're giving them technically what they're looking for, but they're not used to that. They're used to you always saying, well, I mean, I didn't know that I had to do that. Or I forgot and I'm sorry. Like you answering in that way gives them something to continue to pick at. But if you answer them in a way of, yeah, sorry, I did that. Mm-hmm. Like you just gave them an apology. What else could they be fighting for? You acknowledged what you did and you apologized for it. So why are we still fighting? Yeah. It avoids a lot of the narcissistic abuse in a way that allows you to protect and stay where you are. If you absolutely have to stay for the kids, or if you absolutely have to stay for whatever reason, Google the gray rock method. It's a really good tool. It doesn't feel great to do because you don't have a relationship with that person like you thought you did. Right. But the underlying part is that you actually don't have a relationship with that person to begin with. Mm. And that's really hard for people to accept and to acknowledge and to actually see. Right. So I mean, it can be difficult, but it's a useful tool.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have talked quite a bit about the importance of relationship, from relationship with self to relationship with your partner to relationship with your kids, and relationships obviously with people you work with your boss, with your colleagues. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that. Thank you for bringing your expertise on relationship. Yeah. Now, before I let you go, I like to do a little thing called fast round questions, and just ask you for 2 minutes questions. You just answer them as fast as you can. We just like to have a little bit of fun before we go.
Okay.
So here we go.
I'll apologize in case I swear.
What's that?
I'll apologize in advance in case I swear. I do have a bit of
it's okay. All is well. No judgment. No judgment here at all. Okay. What is one thing you would love to do in your life, but you haven't done it yet?
I would love to go to New Zealand.
What is one thing you love about yourself?
My hair.
I love that. It's great. Your hair is awesome.
Thank you.
It's fantastic. When do you feel most like yourself?
Ooh. I think when I'm being goofy with my family, like if I'm hanging out with my kids and we're having a pillow fight, or we're just being absolute goofy people, that's my favorite.
Totally real and authentic. Love it. What is the most valuable life lesson you learned from your parents?
Ooh, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Love it. That's a great one. What did you want to be when you grow up, when you were like 5?
I wanted to be a police officer.
Oh, were you ever?
No, I actually applied. So we're in Canada. I applied to the RCMP, and
you totally could do it.
Yeah, I honestly, I now think, oh yeah, funny.
Yeah, you totally could.
I honestly think that I could. I think I would be accepted now. I applied when I was 18, and I was obviously underage. So I was hurt, obviously, but yeah, I wanted to be a police officer. I think everything happens for a reason, and in hindsight, I'm glad I didn't get in.
Right. Of course. When's the last time you had your an uncontrollable belly laugh?
Oh, 2 nights ago. With my boyfriend, we were sitting on the couch, and I honestly, I have a bio somewhere that explains this, where I feel like I just have a different brain. I think I connect things in a way that for me is just absolutely hilarious. And luckily my boyfriend thinks so as well. So we're sitting on the couch and something on the TV happens, and then I also have ADD and so does he. So my brain will squirrel, but his brain can follow it. Right. And so we'll connect to something that we think is absolutely hilarious. And if there were anyone else in the house, they would think,
what are they laughing at?
You guys get
there? Yeah, that's great when you meet somebody like that.
Yeah.
Who's the most inspirational person in your life? And this will be the last question. The most inspirational person in your life.
So it's funny. I talked about this yesterday, and I have two, because I have to include my mother. My mom started me off on personal development, and she's the reason that I'm doing what I do today.
Amazing.
The way that I was raised was in such a wholesome and nurturing way from my own mother that I don't think I could be doing anything else today. Yep. The second person, and she doesn't even know this, is a teacher I had in high school. Her name's Mrs. Polistretti. And have you ever gone into somewhere, a situation with someone, and you just felt seen?
Yes.
You felt like they got you, they understood you, and they spoke to you like,
yes, her.
Yes. And I took a course called Leadership, and she opened my eyes again to a whole, my mom did the personal side of personal growth, and Mrs. Polistretti did more so the professional side of personal growth. And she taught me things like,
That's 2 minutes.
I'm sorry. It's Mrs. Polistretti. She's an amazing woman.
She's amazing. Okay, my challenge to you that would be fun is find Mrs. Polistretti.
Oh, we still are in contact.
Oh, you're in okay, then you need to write her a letter and tell her that she's one of the most inspirational people in your life, that you recognize
I really
her.
Should. The funny thing is that I should do that. And
what grade did she teach you?
Grade 9 to grade 11.
Okay, yeah, that's quite a while. I was going to say if it was kindergarten, like do it in crayons, but
no.
Do something with.
That would be funny.
Do something memorable for her. She'll love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's been really, really great to have Bri Larson. She's a certified coach and consultant on relationships. Our company name is Elevate. I'm sure people can Google you. Is that where they find you?
ElevateSeminars.ca. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram, Facebook at Elevate Seminars.
Amazing. And she's out in BC. And if you want to get a hold of her, that's how you find her. Thank you so much for joining me here on the CFO Show. I'm Rebecca Binnendijk, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.